Y'all, I am so excited you would not believe. I thought I missed the era of why I left the left videos, but the gods have blessed me. Hi, and welcome to, or back to, my channel. I'm Kit, and today we are discussing YDHB's I'm Leaving the Left video. This is my very first one, and I'm so excited. Earlier this week, a video by Micah, I'm gonna go with Micah's Rhetoric was recommended to me, and I promptly fell down the rabbit hole of YDHB. My first question, what on earth does that stand for? Well, her handle kindly answered that for me. Young, dumb honey bun. And you know, when I was 14, I wondered why on earth someone would want to associate themselves with the word dumb. And 2 decades later, the question stands. Anyway, I did a little sleuthing, and apparently this account is run by Sara. She's a Polish woman who immigrated to England as a child, and she has 2 degrees and a questionable relationship with truth. Given everything I've seen and read the past week, this video is not going to be a kind video. I might be snarky, I might be sarcastic, I won't be giving the benefit of the doubt. This is all my opinion, of course. I don't know Sara, I'm just consuming what she's put out into the world. But I have some thoughts on this video, and someone did say they would like my hot takes. So hot take number 1, Sara was never on the left. And you can't leave something you were never a part of. However, much like people who pretend to have been feminists for the extra boost of being a former feminist who saw the light, well, here we are. I don't think it's playing out exactly like she hoped, but who knows? Perhaps she's playing the long game. So what drew me to this conclusion? Well, for starters, do you really need to announce your political views if you run a channel based off mocking overweight women? No. However, the videos in the run-up to the Leaving the Left video indicate a desire to pivot into different content. And you know, if you want to have a channel catering to a right-wing audience, that's your business, but don't lie. I don't think Sara's views have changed, and now she's ready to announce them to the world. I think her opinions, beliefs, whatever, were already somewhere along these lines, and now is the time, for whatever reason, that she decided to make them public. I assume because she wants to become a culture commentator like Ali Beth Stuckey, and what better story than,
I was on the left, but they just got too crazy for me.
But anyway, most of my takeaways come from her video itself, so let's watch a few bits. It's over 40 minutes long, so we won't be watching the whole thing, but I will link the original video below as usual, and if there's something I haven't talked about here, odds are high that Micah's Rhetoric and Rachel Oates covered it in their videos, and I will link those below as well. The video opens with Sara saying she's nervous, which, okay. She then decides to give us an overview of her life so far, and, well.
Here's a little story beginning to right now of how I grew up very left-leaning, not understanding anything about politics and not particularly being involved in politics at all, to now at 25, still not being involved in politics, still not associating myself with one particular group. However, I have made the decision to present as far away from the left as almost humanly possible, because I cannot anymore take the insanity and the contradiction and the wokeness anymore.
So if she wasn't involved in politics and didn't understand them, how does she figure she was left-leaning? And as she says, she's still not involved in politics and doesn't associate with any particular group. Why the need for this video? Was there anything about her previous content that could have caused her to be mistaken for a leftist? I mean, tattoos and teeth gems don't really scream conservative, but if you don't really care about politics, why make a 45-minute video discussing your political leanings? But to be honest, I don't think she's passionate about politics. I think she just wants to grift. And hey, we're bringing all the buzzwords up front. And on that note, I should clarify that I don't think she's saying these things to get money. I think these are her real beliefs and opinions. She's just realized that perhaps by being more upfront about them, maybe she can get a sweet deal like Brett Cooper. Editing Kit jumping in to add that she never actually tells us what her beliefs were, how they changed, and what she believes now. It's basically tales of the left on TikTok and how she doesn't want to be associated with that. However, she left a comment saying she'd classify herself as in the middle, a little right-leaning, which means what? She said she wanted to do this video so people could know who they're listening to, but I'm left with more questions than answers. Sure, she says a few things here and there that give an indicator of her beliefs, but it's all framed in a, this is what leftists want and I'm against it. Except a little research would show that. I'm going to go ahead and say everything she speaks of in this video is not actually a leftist belief or want. It's like she went binging libs of TikTok's account and decided it was gospel truth.
I have had my entire life had friends who were very conservative, and I had friends who were very, very liberal, or that they were, Tories and Labour, I believe, and they were all friends together. And I had, people who openly were like, oh yeah, so basically my dad's really rich, and we are a Tory family, so we're gonna vote for, whoever benefits us. And my Labour friends were like, that's great. I am not from a rich family and I don't hold the same values and beliefs as you, but you're still my friend, even though I'm going to vote completely different. And I thought that was normal. I thought that everyone's going to just get on and get along, even though they have different opinions.
It sounds like UK politics are pretty similar to the US, where the Conservative Party favors the wealthy. I wonder if it occurred to her that as she and her peers got older and began to go out in the world affected them differently. It's easy to be, yeah, that's cool, when politics are an abstract that you don't think affects your life, but as you get older and begin to see the results and experience the effects, you might begin to look differently at your friends that vote Tory because they're rich. More thoughts from Editing Kit. When I was a teenager, I would have debates with my friends about our beliefs, and it was all in good fun, though we disagreed about pretty much everything. And then we grew up, and I saw how their beliefs could affect others' lives, and that also made me view my friends in a different light. That's what happens as you get older. You become aware of those around you and how things can affect people beyond yourself.
When I went to do my first undergraduate degree, which is my degree in psychology, and graduated with honours, and this is where kind of my career began in psychology, I was taught a lot of things, and this isn't a while ago, this is like 2019, I graduated, I was taught things that now are considered problematic or even bigoted. So let's take, for example, gender dysphoria. I was taught that this is a mental disorder in which the body and the brain essentially feel like they shouldn't be going together. A person's feeling dysphoric, they're feeling a variety of very, very negative emotions, anxiousness, insecurity, a lot of negative emotions specifically towards their body. And that, I was taught, needs to be addressed with intensive therapy and working out and prioritizing this person's health, mental health and physical health, and putting forward a plan as to what this person needs, whether that be medical transition or whether that be intensive therapy. That's what I was taught. But now, apparently that makes you a medicalist and a bigot, because you deny people who identify as trans to simply go in and have surgeries and have transition without prior diagnosis.
My first thought when I heard this was, well, things change. The world is always changing, we're always discovering new things, and different people have different needs. And then?
And so to see young people now who, in a lot of these cases, have not been educated to any kind of degree about this, who have maybe taken gender studies, saying things like, you shouldn't want to fix disability, you shouldn't want to treat disability, you shouldn't want to diagnose gender dysphoria, that is a bigoted term and we shouldn't do this, puts me at a crisis internally, because I have gotten additional 5 years of education, 6 years of education at my A-levels, where this is the first time it was brought up, and that's your 3 years of undergraduate and master's, and then 2 years of A-levels. So that's 6 years of education where I was taught that you prioritize the patient, you prioritize the health, and you give them a correct diagnosis. That now a 20-year-old is telling me that's not how it is, or a 16-year-old is telling me, well, then that's bigoted and it makes you this kind of person. And it put me at this very unpleasant place where I'm like, am I listening to the individuals that have been educated, that are clinicians that are working for example, the NHS, and they are the best of the best, where they come in once a week and they teach you to have a big electrical, there's hundreds of people, they teach you everything, or do I listen to someone on TikTok?
And that was when I began wondering if all this came from TikToks she's seen. How can a professional not differentiate between, well, her profession and teenagers on TikTok? Why would that throw her into a crisis? And if it did, why wouldn't she talk to one of her colleagues about it, asking if there was a new treatment or new recommendations or something, rather than just assuming TikTok is where you go to get all the latest updates on healthcare? Also, note the crack about gender studies. She doesn't really think these TikTokers are right. She's just using them to illustrate how insane the left is, which is a great choice of word, by the way, for a psychologist.
I was a man-hating feminist, and I am so embarrassed about it, but at the same time I think it's time that I take ownership of it and say, you know what, yeah, and I've grown from that and I'm stepping into adulthood with new ideas. I was the first one to be like, men have oppressed women for so long, and that everything that's wrong with the world, and white cis het men are just like the spawn of Satan.
Well, folks, you heard it here first. Sara pioneered feminism. Well, I'm being generous. Boiling it down to I hated men and thought white cishet men were the spawn of Satan isn't feminism. Perhaps we should call it Saraism. But yes, she should be embarrassed for holding a belief and not even bothering to research what she believes. I would love to know what made her decide she was a feminist if that was what she thought feminism was, though, because, well, you'll see.
I look back now at a college argument that I had with someone talking about the pay gap, talking about the gender pay gap, and this dude was like, listen to yourself. And he was talking to me, he was citing evidence, and I was so determined to just not listen to any of it, to be like, no, I don't care, this is what happens, this is what it is, having no idea, no evidence, nothing to back it up with. But I was convinced that I was right, and I was convinced that he was wrong.
And apparently, following that discussion, Sara did not feel the need to research why she believed there's a pay gap. Fun fact, there's a gender pay gap in every country, though the extent of it varies.
I had to stand there and say, okay, you say things like, you hate all men. Do you hate your father? No, God no, he's the most hardworking, loving man I've ever known. Do you hate your brothers? Do you hate your fiancé? Do you hate your male friends? Well, no. So how can you say that?
So there we go. Sara was considering herself a man-hating feminist when she loved her father and brothers, had male friends, and dated men. And she never once stopped to think about that. She apparently never bothered to look into feminist theory either, but I don't understand how someone with 2 degrees can be so intellectually lazy.
How can you say that? How can you say such a generalized thing? Are you oppressed right now? Well, it depends what you mean. Well, have you ever felt oppressed? Well, no. Have you ever been denied opportunities because you're a woman? No. Have you ever been denied opportunities because you are an immigrant and a woman? Well, no. I've actually become exactly who I want to be, and I have been granted so many more opportunities because I was a woman and because I am an immigrant. And so, what are you talking about right now? We're not talking about globally. We're talking about right now in your everyday life. What is it that supports your logic of I hate all men, they are the evil of the society, I am oppressed because I am a woman and I have been denied all of these opportunities, when you yourself can admit that in your life that has not directly disadvantaged you? How dare you say that?
All right, everyone. An attractive, cis, straight, white woman never felt oppressed, so we can pack it up and head home. I know she's never going to watch this video, but how has she gone 24 years and never spoke with someone who had a different experience than her? Or if she did, how did it never click in her mind that feminism isn't just something I do for me and my needs, but for others? That is, however, something I've noticed about conservatives. They can't imagine advocating for something that you don't personally need that isn't going to benefit you in some way.
I also don't subscribe to this idea of saying that to other women. I don't think that we should sit there and say things like, just because you are a woman, then you are going to be capped because of the glass ceiling. You're never going to get to the top. All men are going to hate you and use you.
Declaring a hatred of men and telling other women they're not going to amount to anything because they're women is not feminism. How would that accomplish anything? Did she do any research at all before deciding she was a feminist? After her realization that she doesn't actually hate men, which I am having a hard time imagining making those statements without any self-reflection, but anyway, she says she read some books and watched some videos, and I would love to know some specifics. Editing Kit yet again jumping in to say that when I was Sara's age, I did the I'm not a feminist but dance because I thought feminism was about hating men. I have no idea where I got that idea from, but I remember picking up Jessica Valenti's He's a Stud, She's a Slut and learning more about feminism from there, though it did take a few years before I felt comfortable calling myself a feminist. Not so much because I was worried about how people might perceive me, but because I don't feel comfortable attaching myself to a label until I know a fair bit about it. So I am really curious about, well, first, how did Sara so easily attach herself to the label of feminist when she thought it, apparently solely, consisted of man-hating and she did not actually hate men? And second, how did she not even accidentally research feminism and realize that boiling it down to man bad is neither true nor accurate? Does she not fancy herself as some sort of intellectual?
I have recently read a study that talked about victimhood and the way we seek victimhood.
Mika's Rhetoric covered this, and she's a degreed professional, so I'll leave her to it, but I would like to note that if you're going to reference studies in your video, you should link to it. And someone with 2 degrees should know this. And TLDW, she's misunderstanding or misrepresenting the study.
But right now, I'm seeing people saying things like young children, if they are expressing hobbies, and show interest in the opposite gender, they are trans. And it is shocking and upsetting and incredibly heartbreaking to see grown adults pushing some children and not actually listening and prioritizing their health and their well-being, but prioritizing either their fame because they want to get on TV or write books about it or go around the world and tour, whatever that may be, or just their own ideology, and they want to be like, look at me, look, I have one of these rare Pokemons that everyone's talking about right now. That's how it feels.
Pushing children into being trans so their parents can become famous or collect rare Pokemon is not a leftist belief. Also, citation needed.
I am pro-choice. I will always be pro-choice. I believe that you should have a right to a healthy and safe abortion. I do believe that, and I always will, because I know that there's so many different circumstances. I think that should be coupled with early and really good quality sex education so that we can prevent unnecessary or unwanted pregnancies so that we don't have to perform these abortions.
Well, there's something we can agree on.
However, I do think that education and preventative measures should go hand in hand before abortion is the last resort of because it has a big impact on an individual. But I will always be pro-choice. I will always understand that women have to have control over their bodies, and I do believe that. Why am I now seeing people who are so pro-choice that I actually would rather step away from them? I have seen this video of this woman who says that she has an abortion. She's not having an abortion and that abortion fetus is clean cut, and it's not going to have joint.
Straight up though, if I ever have an abortion, bet I'm gonna have a fucking party. I'm gonna have cupcakes with aborted fetuses thrown on them, lots of snacks, I'm gonna come up with some sort of cocktail and call it the aborted fetus, and all of my friends are just gonna hang out, eat a bunch of yummy dead fetus.
I may be pro-choice, but that is borderline psychotic. There is being pro-choice and understanding the gravity of the situation you're talking about.
I don't think she was serious, but this reminds me of someone. I think it's likely different in the UK, but the TikTok was from an American, and the attitude toward abortion here is, well, we just had our right to bodily autonomy overturned, so that should tell everyone what they need to know about the American attitude toward abortion. Perhaps if it wasn't a constant talking point, people wouldn't feel the need to make TikToks like these. Another hot take? I'm sick of people using things like this to say,
pro-choicers are just taking things too far. I'm pro-choice, but
let people deal how they deal. Also, I saw that Libs of TikTok label or brand or whatever, and now I'm wondering if Sara was just binging their account and that led to the making of this video.
So I don't want to be associated with people like that. I don't want to have people say, well, this person's pro-choice and you're pro-choice, so you're the same, you're in the same group. No.
Except you just said you're pro-choice, so you are in the same group. Sorry. But if you stop watching these TikToks, they'll probably stop being recommended to you.
I also see this constant demonization of women who don't want to work. I see this demonization of the 9 to 5 because it's a rat race, because it's so gross. How could you want that? I see people attacking women who are stay-at-home mums who choose to have children, who want to be a traditional woman where she doesn't want to work, she just wants to have babies. And now suddenly that's a problem too.
So basically, everything is under attack? Okay. It's kind of funny how she was talking about how self-censorship will never lead to humanity progressing, and she has to share her opinions now while she can because she's so lucky to be in a Western country, but apparently people sharing their opinions is demonizing.
They'll tell you if you are losing weight, you are a racist. If you are not losing weight, then you are a racist.
What is she talking about?
If you are finding big bodies attractive, then that's fetishizing. If you are not, then you are fatphobic. If you want to have control over who you are having sex with, then that's whatever ism that is because someone else thinks that you should be attracted to them.
Am I wrong, or does this really sound like she's getting everything from TikTok?
And I'm seeing people who are saying my community or people who think like me are better because we are more inclusive and you can feel safe with us and we are all these nice things and, we accept people. And then the people who either question what they're saying or have a different opinion are being doxxed, being harassed, being threatened. And I personally cannot sit there and be like, yeah, that's the same community I belong to. That's the same political views I have.
Citation needed. And I'm a bit confused because it sounds like she's disavowing her political beliefs because she disagrees with the actions of, well, from the sounds of it, some people on TikTok. There are a lot of people who are leftists that I disagree with, but that is not enough to prompt me to change my political beliefs. I think they are what's best for humanity and are what will help us survive and thrive in the future. And there's going to be jackasses in every community. No one is morally superior. If that's her metric for determining her politics, well...
Do we just not look at people's personalities anymore? Do we just not have conversations about our achievements, our hobbies, our houses, our partners, our jobs, our pets, our political views, our moral beliefs, our religions? Do we not talk about that anymore? And not talk as in interrogate people, but just have conversations about that where we can walk away from that. Not saying I made an ally or I made an enemy, but just saying that was a nice conversation. Or, that wasn't a great conversation, I don't agree with that person. And then go on about our lives.
It is entirely possible to have conversations with people. I do it all the time. And another hot take, if you have to ask if you can just have conversations these days, you need to get off TikTok. She obviously had a lot more to say, but it was nothing groundbreaking. Since posting this video, she has changed her channel name to The Unpopular Opinion with Sara, which is apparently going to be about having conversations I think are important, picking up stories from my daily newsfeed and exploring them with people who are interested and keen to share their opinions. And if her daily newsfeed is from libs of TikTok, oh boy, she actually has posted a video since her leaving the left, and it was about a children's book that parents should be aware of because it encourages children to research their kinks online. 43-minute video on a book titled, Let's Talk About It, The Teen's Guide to Sex, Relationships, and Being a Human. And yes, she did go off about how teens are still children, which is interesting because earlier in this video, she talked about being in favor of early sex ed. This is a book for high school students who, let's be honest, will most likely be too embarrassed to purchase this for themselves and will thus likely be given it by a family member. No, teens are not adults, but it's disingenuous to pretend they're children. A 14-year-old is not the same as an 8-year-old. A 16-year-old is not the same as a 10-year-old. Anyway, as it's one of my hobbies, let's look at some comments. I had previously made a comment in support, which is now gone because I couldn't take the embarrassment of pretending to support you any longer since you put this out. Something in my gut was screaming at me that you aren't a good person and I didn't listen. I am now. Gotta say, this is the only time you've genuinely been inspiring. Made me think. The only time I've sat back and realized I am just like you after a talk with a friend about this video. Only in the sense that I'm ignorant on the reality of the world, but very informed on the reality that the internet has spun, which you seem so convinced is the truth. So I'm going to go out there and learn and be better than I am now. I was sheltered like you, but I'm not going to let that continue to cloud my mind. I am only a year older than you. We're both young and have time to grow, but I'm not going to be here to watch you change. I don't think you will, personally. You said yourself you won't listen to anyone you don't think is on your level. You are so incredibly stubborn, self-centered, and mean. I think you'll try to die on your hill like you tried 2 years ago with the Amberlin merch, which I believe you only backed down on because you couldn't take the heat anymore. Anyways, peace. Good luck with your life, I guess. Sara, I have always supported you, but you need to do more research about what is left and what is right in the real world and not on social media. In your country, in my country, in the EU, that actually affects people's lives. You have said yourself that you haven't followed politics, so you cannot comment on them, so where did this come from? I didn't even know you were on the left. Much love from Athens, Greece, your 37-year-old subscriber. I'm really confused as to who you think you are now. This channel got its subs from mocking obese women, and now you think you're a political commentator? Girl, you have been on TikTok too much. You are dismissing 50% of the political spectrum because of some chronically online extreme teenagers without actually looking at what is actually happening in the real world. I don't identify as either left nor right because I like to make my own opinions based on the circumstance, and I'm absolutely fine with debating and having friends from all sides of the spectrum, but for you to self-proclaim as right-wing now with no actual real-world news or politics to back it up is just silly. I can't say I'm surprised that your channel is finally dying. Your personality and lies are finally coming to light. The true left has freed so many vulnerable people and created a fairer country by introducing things such as free healthcare in the UK. Describing it as insanity is so harmful. It is clear you have no grasp on real politics. I have been a fan for years, but I think it is my time to leave this space. If you truly wish to be as far from the left as possible, that would be far right. A bit of research on the values of this group wouldn't hurt. This comes across as rather ignorant, Sara. And as it's another one of my hobbies, I did a little look-see of her Instagram follows, and of course there's Jordan and Michaela Peterson, as well as Brett Cooper. And then, unusually, something called Outspoken with an American flag background. I went to the website and, well, from the About page, nearly 4 years after America elected its first president that supports marriage equality, our nation grapples with a culture war that has grown a significant and visible community of LGBT conservatives who support freedom and diversity of thought, only to be rejected by the mainstream media and the intersectional left. We stand as proud supporters of freedom of thought and diversity of opinion. We champion equality and opportunity and believe that conservative leadership and policies will provide opportunity for all Americans to thrive, for all families to flourish, for all communities to prosper. The cancel culture born out of the resist movement has done nothing to foster critical thinking and acceptance of the LGBT community. While left-wing political structures strive to silence or belittle our voices, we rise to provide an alternative viewpoint. We amplify our voices to reach out to mainstream gays and lesbians looking for a common-sense community ready to support one another, not pit one faction against another. We engage with our allies to join the broader conservative movement, knowing freedom and liberty is the fastest trajectory to equality and prosperity. So, do the other conservatives know about this? Because I think they might have some objections. I'm always so baffled when I see things like this because they're not going to accept you. You can agree with them all you want, and they'll be happy to use you when they need you, but they're never going to accept you, and once they don't need you anymore, well. So yeah, they have a tag called Big Trans, so I'm predicting a lot of anti-trans content from Sara in the future. So far, she's lost a few thousand subscribers. We'll see if that trend turns around and she begins picking up a right-leaning audience. Because, let's be honest, though she did say she's not declaring herself conservative and she considers herself more center-right, her content so far says otherwise, and unfortunately, there's more money in extremes. And that's it for this video. If you made it this far, thank you so much for watching. I would like to give extra thanks to my patrons, and if you would like to help support the channel, my Patreon is linked below along with my socials. Liking, commenting, subscribing, and sharing are also great ways to help support the channel if you would like to. Have a great day, night, whenever you happen to be watching this, and fade to cats.